What is up, people? This is your old pal, Mr. Carley, and Finnian, who is trying to currently figure out how this computer mumbo jumbo works. So I said I would do a overview of the review guide. So you got it. We'll try to do this in 15 minutes before Finnian decides he needs some food. I'm sorry that he's giving such a sour face. I don't know. He needs to like analyze things before you truly can understand them. So first one is OCD has been linked to low levels of the neurotransmitter serotonin. So how does serotonin travel from the soma of one neuron to the next using the following terms? So we want to start somewhere. It's up to you. And I gave you, sorry. Starts from the soma. So as I want to start, the soma is the cell body of the neuron. That's where the symbol is going, or the signal is going to start, and the soma is going to send that signal to produce serotonin, and that's going to travel down the axon, and then the axon is going to send a signal called action potential, which is going to tell the end of the neuron to release serotonin. And the serotonin is going to travel across the synapse, or not through the synapse, sorry. It's going to go through a synapse, which is a little opening in the neuron. It's actually technically called the synaptic gap. And then that's going to go to the dendrite, or the receiver of the next neuron. And then anything that's left over, not anything that's left over, but some of it that's left over, it's not all going to bind. Some of it will dissipate and go away, like me on a Saturday night. And some of it will go through reuptake, which means it gets sucked back up into the first neuron, and there it goes. So that's when reuptake happens, right at the end. And then you will continue to have this situation until there's not enough signal to cause action potential to occur. So what point or step is it most likely to cause low levels of serotonin? Well, if you remember, I actually said this, that the commonly prescribed OCD and antidepressant is a SSRI, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, that stops reuptake from happening, which means that not reuptake, that's not the answer, but the reason you stop reuptake is because there hasn't been enough serotonin that's traveled across the synaptic gap. So it's the synapse where it's going to break down. Is it going to, technically it's from going from the synapse to the next dendrite. Not enough is able to bind. So it tries to stop reuptake from happening, so that then you can be more likely to have more serotonin binding. Okay, synapse to next dendrite. Again, this is the process. Just make sure I kind of he's got his foot up here. I kind of explained it to you as I was going, but you want to make sure you're not just writing the order, because anybody can memorize the order. Just think about how the process occurs. Yeah, are you interested? He's going to be a genetic scientist like his mom. All right, so functions of the brain, I gave you 4 squares. Some stuff's going to be used more than once. So the parts of the cerebral cortex are the main lobes. So you're going to have the frontal lobe. Sorry, I'm typing with one hand because I'm holding him with the other. I could try to do this. This probably isn't going to work, though. Frontal lobe, you've got the parietal lobe. You've got the occipital lobe. So he's going to try to start typing some stuff in a second. And the temporal lobe. Those are the major parts of the cerebral cortex. The thing that separates you the most is the frontal lobe, developed frontal lobe. There he goes. Oh, yeah. That was a Finnian. There you go. Thank you. Limbic system. The big parts that we know about this are the hypothalamus, which regulates body temperature, sleep-wake cycle, hunger, different types of drives. You've got the amygdala. My friend from high school, amygdala, so emotional. You've got the hippocampus. Some people would also link the thalamus in there too. I technically like to think of it as the brainstem, but if you look at the location of it, it is kind of in the limbic system. Because there's disagreement, I'm not going to ask you a question about that. Parts that control unconscious functions. That's going to be mostly the brain stem, like the medulla and the pons, for example. You're also going to have the thalamus is going to impact your sensory input, and then the hypothalamus. Whoopsie, hang on, bud. Hypothalamus does a whole bunch of different things related to, like I just said, drive states, sleep, wake, hunger, things like that. And the parts of Oh no, you want a plate? What if I gave you a tractor? How's that sound? Hang tight, people. I'm just gonna pause this while I get him something to play with. And we're back. So now we have a tractor, and life is compatible. Anyway, parts involved in transmitting sensory information. Well, first one is the thing that transmits all the senses except for smell, and that's the thalamus. Thalamus is going to be the big thing, and then you have the three lobes of the brain that are involved in sensory information. So those are the occipital lobe for vision, the parietal lobe for touch, the temporal lobe for hearing, and that's it. Yeah. Did I say occipital lobe for vision? Yeah. Taste is actually in a little bit weirder spots in the frontal lobe. But yeah, so smell is going to go through the amygdala, just so you know that one. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, get your tractor back. He doesn't like sitting up here. Basic definitions of each of the following concepts. So consciousness is generally someone's level of awareness of a situation. You can go from low to high. It's kind of a continuum. Altered states of consciousness, those can be anything like drug-induced altered states. You could think about flow states. You could talk about concussions, things like that. Being involved in music, for example. Ugh. And then low-level states and high states. That's pretty much from your notes. So for the sake of time, I won't do that one. Oh, no. So sad. All right, sorry. We had to take a break for lunch here. Okay, 3 factors that determine sleep-wake cycle. So 3 things are light and darkness, or daylight. You've got the hypothalamus, which decides, that's where the light, it takes in the light, and then it determines what your circadian rhythm is going to be. And then you've got melatonin, which is a hormone that is secreted by your pineal gland in your brain, and it makes you tired. I forgot circadian rhythm. Just remember, circadian rhythms are 24 hours, and that's basically talking about your sleep-wake cycle. Yeah, good stuff. Negative effects of insufficient sleep. Explain what's meant by sleep debt. I feel like that's pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about that. Let me know if you have questions. 4 stages. NREM 1, which is drifting off. NREM 2 is noted by relaxation, and that's where you have sleep spindles and K complexes. NREM 3 is your first deep sleep. It's where night terrors will happen, generally in sleepwalking. And then you have REM sleep, which is dreaming, rapid eye movement dreaming. I guess technically dreams can happen in other stages of sleep, but it's most likely during rapid eye movement or REM. Learn about 5 theories of dreams. You need at least 2 of them. Actually, I'm going to ask you about 3. To a dream, if asked. And then, yeah, so I don't know. We had 5 theories were Freudian, which is unconscious psychoanalytic. You had Jungian or collective unconscious, which is a little more complicated, still psychodynamic. You've got the threat simulation, which is pretty straightforward. And then expectation fulfillment. Just remember that expectation fulfillment isn't about like what you want. It's about emotions that you need to expel. Yes, big emotions, little bodies. Indeed. Would you like some water? All right, keep thinking about that. And then continual activation, which is about processing. So processing memories, emotions, cognition, thoughts over time, things like that. 4 categories: stimulants, depressants, opiates / narcotics, and hallucinogens. 1 example of each. This is all your drug chart. You got to talk about neurotransmission. So really quick, stimulants, 2 we learned about were, actually there's 3 sort of. You got cocaine, which is related to dopamine, caffeine, which is related to adenosine, and MDMA, or ecstasy, which is also technically a hallucinogen, but it's related heavily to serotonin and dopamine as well. Depressants, 2 you learned about were alcohol and benzodiazepine. I always say it wrong. I'm sorry, but it's basically Valium. Okay, so Valium, it's a prescription drug that calms you down. Both of those are related to GABA and a little bit to serotonin as well. Opiates are related to your opioid receptors, which are pain receptors, or I guess helping numb pain. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So we learn about, you talk about heroin or other opiates that are prescribed. For example, fentanyl is a synthetic form. What? Would you like some water? Yeah? Okay. And then finally, hallucinogens, which is cannabis or marijuana. I don't know how I spelled that wrong. Until I know a lot about this. Cannabis, psilocybin, and then LSD would be another one. Technically, ecstasy is technically one. Sorry, we're fighting with a glass of water here, so we'll have to pause one more time. Sorry, we just put a piece of corn into a cup of water. Pretty awesome. Okay, and then ecstasy. So again, we got stimulants that are mostly focused on dopamine. Goodness, except caffeine, which is related to adenosine. Alcohol and Valium are related to GABA and also serotonin to an extent. Heroin or opiates is related to opioid receptors. And then hallucinogens, nobody's really sure exactly how it works, just that it does work. It usually relates to parts of your cortex. And I can show you a map. I forgot to show my 1B class where I was there today. The map of like brain neural connections between someone on hallucinogens and not on hallucinogens. So those are the examples. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully that was a good enough overview of the things you should be thinking about related to the exam. Finny, you want to say bye? Can you see him? Finnian. Hello. Hey. Can you say bye-bye? Can you wave? All right. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully it was helpful. And yeah, study up. Cool.